Well, hello and good day, good evening, good night. I'm Alvin Day here again to share with you another episode, occasion, and the subject we have been discussing called leadership. But our conversation about leadership has not been a normal one. I will remind you, if you've been here and heard this before, or if you've not heard it before, what it is that we're about on this channel. Do you want to earn more? And by earn more, I don't just mean money. Do you want to earn more respect, relationships, companionship, reward, results, recognition, income? If you do, I have bad news for you, because it's impossible to do that on a sustained basis unless you achieve more. Because due to the fact that we live in some sort of meritocracy, now it's not always fair, it's not always timely, but we live in a meritocracy. You cannot earn more on a sustainable basis unless you first achieve more. It is your performance that counts. It's the results you generate that count. And the worst news is that you cannot achieve more on a sustainable basis unless you first become more. Now think about that for a moment. It is not what you do or your qualifications, your education, that gives you value in society, in home, in systems, in places. It is who you are that gives you value. And so if you are going to achieve more, it means that you have more inside to give. And it's more of knowledge and wisdom and attitude and kindness and patience and love and a sense of contribution and technical competency. And subsequently, if you look at the algebra, we can cut out the middle step and say, if you want to earn more, you must first become more. The reason we have this conversation on a regular basis is that I am preoccupied with the notion of helping people to earn more of anything valuable that they want, with the knowledge that this can only be done through an ongoing process of personal transformation. Transformation that is no less marvelous and miraculous than that which governs a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. That biological term called metamorphosis, changing my state into something from what it was to what I want it to be or what it will be. I challenge you today, even as you listen to this particular subject, that you continue to put your mind in a place that says you cannot afford to be what you were yesterday. You're standing here being what you are only as a precipice to jump off into being what you want to become tomorrow. Because as soon as the human being begins to halt that process and stop changing, that human being is dying. And we can't afford that yet. So if you want to earn more of all the wonderful virtues and values that you have in life, that you aspire to having in life, it is important to commit yourself to transformation. Now, as I often say, one of the greatest places where that personal transformation or lack thereof is visible is when you stand in front of an audience to communicate one to many. You have to give a speech to 100 people. And if you have not transformed yourself into one of poise and power and passion, a term that you'll hear me use again, then it's going to be very difficult for you to deliver that speech with the effect intended. But if you have worked on yourself, if you have beaten up yourself and push yourself through the investment of the discomfort of getting out of that zone where you know everything and everything is predictable, if you come to the place where confidence has been built and is no longer necessary because you just want to do what you do and you're not worried about how they think about you because you've already taken care of that, then you can stand in front of 100 or 10,000 and deliver your thoughts in speech in such a way where the thoughts become infectious. People want to hear you. People are engaged in you. When you work on yourself, you become more. You can be in a place where people want to be around you, to have a relationship with you, to support you, to lift you when you fall. And so the subject for today is, in the context of public speaking or speaking on camera, where we can, without having worked on ourselves and transformed ourselves, we can feel completely vulnerable and weak, and therefore not strong enough to deliver the message with power. One of the considerations in order for you to be in that place of power, to speak to 1,000 or 10,000, is that you work on your presence, or that you have worked on your presence. Now, what does that mean? It is easy and logical to assume that when we're talking about speaking on camera or public speaking, We're talking about words that you use, or perhaps body language even. But what is this thing called presence? And that's what I want to share with you today. You see, I've met a lot of people in my life who are good at the gift of gab. They can open their mouths and start a sentence, and it just goes until they figure out what they want to say, or they say something really wonderful. So it's not just about words. Gift of gab can be a fine thing, and can be not such a fine thing. It is not such a fine thing if there is not authenticity and integration of those words with the being inside, with who you are. And so what is this presence? It's not just your physical stature blocking the light. It's something even deeper. Have you ever been in a room and had conversation going and you're paying attention to people around the room and somebody walked in and there's almost a hush? Everybody notices, even if they don't turn to look. People notice that somebody walks in the room. And one of the reasons why is that person's presence is communicating something that impacts other human beings. Truth be told, we all have that. But not all of us are using it right. Not all of us have developed it. Not all of us have it operating at a sufficient level to be noticed. And not all of us who have it noticed have worked on ourselves in such a way where it is noticed positively. So certainly there are people with presence where when they walk into a room, they set the air on edge and people like shrink up and want to back up. That's presence. So we are talking about presence of the other kind that endears people to you, that makes people pay attention. I imagine that you've been there, and if you haven't, you'll want to pay attention to this in the future. Presence. What is it? And why is it so important when we are talking about personal development and we are talking about public speaking, being on camera? Now, beyond words and beyond just body language, this thing called presence is something that can help you build credibility and build quickly. This thing called presence is something that will cause people to be engaged in what you do and what you say. And so it behooves us well to pay attention to it and think about how we actually generate it, manage it, and make sure it is working positively for us, to get a momentum going with where you're headed so people want to follow you. Leaders don't just need to impress people. They need to be something impressive and something that is fully congruent with the people whom they want to impress. Now, this is not a sort of egotistical look at me kind of thing. It is just a center of power that is endearing, that makes people want to get close to it. I almost am struggling to define this thing called presence. It is the sort of effective transmission of leadership. If people are in a dark place and someone lights a candle, they can't help but see it. You can close your eyes and still see light because it comes through the covering of your eyes. Try it. Close your eyes, turn on a bright light, you will notice. So this presence is something of magnetism or repulsion, whether positive or negative. And so let's talk about it for a moment. And the best way I can think to share this with you is that in our leadership development coaching, which we do with typically large corporations, senior executives, and middle management, we have a number of courses. One of them is public speaking and presentation skills. Another of them is executive presence. And so our conversation today kind of goes between both of those. The overarching thing is talking on camera or in front of an audience somehow. And today we're talking about what is this presence thing. I want to introduce some of you and remind others of you to a word I learned only a few years ago that is a powerful word. It is a word of Greek origin. It's called gravitas. Gravitas. And this is one of three things I want to share with you today if you're interested in developing your presence in a positive, impacting way. So number one is gravitas. Do you have gravitas? And simply, it is sort of an external calm and weightiness and poise that you have that causes people to take you seriously. My own layman's term for defining it. And so I could go into a number of things today about gravitas, but I thought about a shortcut way to get it to you. And so I went to my smartphone and I pressed a button, just one of the buttons at the bottom of my smartphone, and up came Gemini. It's like ChatGPT AI. I have it set so that I just touch one thing on my phone and I can ask anything in the world I want to do. One of these days, you and I will be talking about how to utilize AI to make you a better presenter. We have a group of people who are undertaking a challenge right now for 30 days, where they go from nervous or from camera shy, I should say, to camera confident. And in that, we talk so much about all the depth of understanding and skill and attitude and thinking and all the things necessary to take you from a mediocre or scared presenter to one not really powerful and charging the camera, but one who is just calm and effective and riveting home a message into the minds of the listeners, all done within 30 days. So this is a little piece of that, if you will, or would be a little piece of that. How do you use AI to help you in that process? And so I only say that to introduce the notion that I cheated. In terms of preparing for things, man, AI is a wonderful cheat code. Because just before coming, literally a few minutes before coming on camera here, I went to AI and asked the question that I want to address for you. And I asked, what is gravitas? And I will deliberately read this for you. I don't like to read slides or anything, but I'd like you to hear this because it's not necessarily a word in common usage. And I'll read it quickly because I don't want it to drag. Think of gravitas as more than just being serious. It's about having a presence that commands respect and conveys a sense of importance and responsibility. Someone with gravitas carries himself or herself in a way that suggests that the person has experience, good judgment, and a deep understanding of things. Here are some key aspects of gravitas, and now it gives me some bullet points. Seriousness and sobriety. Think of that. A demeanor that suggests thoughtfulness, consideration, and a lack of frivolousness. Now, I'm going to continue with this list. But if you're a discerning listener, as you listen to this, you're going to come quickly to the notion that some of these things are marks of maturity. In fact, you will hear that directly. And if you are experienced and you have a couple of decades under your belt, like I'm a little over 29, I've been there for a while, this should come naturally to you. And if it doesn't, you need to work on it. Gravitas. But particularly, if you are of the younger age, millennials and younger, and you have not spent a few decades in life and business, several decades, I should say, in life and business, where the spontaneity and rashness of youth, and I speak as a young person myself, would naturally lead you to being a little giddy and a little unfocused and a little capricious and so forth. But you want to be taken seriously as a presenter, you really need to pay attention to this. What am I saying? I say, yeah, if you're older and you don't have this, you need to work on it. But particularly if you're older and you don't have the years of experience to develop this natural seriousness, you need to work on this because there are young people who are fun-loving and energetic who have gravitas. So let me continue with that caveat. So seriousness and sobriety. Here's another one, dignity and composure. Maintaining a sense of self-respect and control even in challenging situations. Unflappable, not showing your emotions immediately. Somebody says something wrong in a meeting and your face gets contorted and you immediately transmit to the rest of the group that this is displeasing to you. Now, gravitas is ability to maintain your composure even under pressure and in difficult situations. Here's another one, weightiness and influence. The ability to command attention and have one's opinion and actions carry significance. The way you speak, the way you carry your body, the way your mind works. Here's another one, experience and wisdom. Now this one, listen to this one. It says, often is implied in your gravitas. Gravitas often comes with age and a proven track record, suggesting a depth of understanding and maturity. So this is the one now where if you are somebody who's been around for a couple or 3 decades and you're not taken seriously when you want to be, then you really need to work on this. But if you haven't attained it, then you really need to work on this, just to repeat myself. And so the last of the bullets is moral character And this is often implied. So while not always the case, a sense of strong moral principles can contribute to gravitas. Because when somebody is not taken seriously, it is not necessarily because the person is goofy and, as a word we used to use when I was a child, jokified, jokified, jocular. It is not necessarily that the person is funny and goofy. A person can fail to be taken seriously when the person is not credible and believable and perceived as being a person of integrity. You might say that a seasoned diplomat, a most respected judge, or a long-serving community leader naturally possesses gravitas. But then those who do not have those accolades or professional items on their resume work on it and can get the same effect. What's the bottom line? If you want to become more so that you can earn more, if you want to stand in front of a camera of 1,000, well, that might even be scary for people who haven't begun this process, who want to. If you haven't stood before a camera of 10 people or 100 or 1,000 and be taken seriously, just become self-aware and examine your gravitas, your seriousness, your credibility, your believability, and work on this. I have done a little here to cover that course called Executive Presence as far as gravitas is concerned. But if you take it seriously, I'd encourage you to go online and do some more research and just become aware. Put a mirror up against yourself and say, when I walk into an audience, when I walk in front of a group of people, when I step into a room, do I step in with gravitas or without it? So tell me in the chat what your thought is on gravitas. Do I have it? Do I need to work on it? And then let's go to the second of the three things I promised. Inner grounding. Now, I played with this. I wanted to start out with this, but I put it right in the middle of two critical things that are interdependent. In the middle of three things I'm going to give you, the middle one is inner grounding. It begins with the seriousness and credibility of being a person of implied authority and legitimacy. And right in the middle, there's inner grounding. And then at the end, there's going to be physical appearance. You cannot have gravitas if it's just external, if it's just body language and how you hold your body. I was thirsty all over. Gravitas is not something that is manufactured just from the outside. Gravitas is something that is an overall picture, but on the inside of you is the source of it. On the outside of you is the manifestation of it. And if you have the manifestation that is contrived and made up and just for the moment, it'll quickly be seen and you will lose gravitas. So let's begin with the inside. I deliberately did not use the word inspired or motivated. It's a grounding because, you know, motivation and inspiration are wonderful things, but sometimes they feel loose and capricious and transient and ephemeral and momentary and circumstantial and situational. All those words that say that they are not sustainable in themselves. So I'm talking about something much more substantive, grounding, meaning sort of the base foundation of your being. If you're going to have seriousness and effectiveness in your presence, remember this is what we're talking about here, your presence. It begins on the inside of you. You have to be able to stand in front of an audience and not worry about you because you've already taken care of you in this becoming more thing that I referenced earlier. And so your self-concept needs to be intact and positive. Whether you grew up in a home where you were given the nurturing and the recognition and the encouragement that every child needs, or you've had to develop it later, you need it. What am I saying? The idea that my parents didn't treat me right and my friends don't believe in me, that idea is not an excuse. Because you pay me some money, I can give you dozens, or even just bet me. I can give you dozens of folks who did not have that nurturing in childhood. It is nice to have. I wish I had more of it. But if you didn't get it, it's not an excuse. You can't blame your parents or your friends or your upbringing. Those are the cards you were dealt in life. Now you need to play to win the game. And to win the game is you look at where you want to be and you develop a path to go forward. One of those is to work on your mind, on your thinking, on your sense of being. What does that have to do with public speaking and speaking on camera? It is that when you stand in front of a camera, it's like 1,000 points of light shining through you. They can see everything, even the non-physical things. They can see your poise. They can see your credibility. They can see your believability. They can see whether or not you are nervous. They can see if you believe in what you're saying, to some degree, of course, but enough to flavor the effectiveness of your presentation. So you work on the inside of you, knowing that it is a place of vulnerability when you stand in front of the camera. How do you think about yourself? What is your esteem like? What's your self-esteem like? In another course, we talk about how to build self-esteem even after childhood. And it's not the way you get it in childhood. There's another formula to that. Do you believe that you're here on purpose, that you're not an accident? Do you believe that there's greater purpose to your life than just a biological existence? And for a few of us, do you believe your mama was right when she told you that you're an accident? She was wrong, you know. Maybe not out of malice, but maybe out of deep ignorance. There's no life that is worthless. Sometimes you have to dig deeper for some to find it, but dig deeper if you must. You have to come to recognize that your life is on purpose. You're not some sort of probabilistic occurrence that crawled out of the beach by evolution and just happened to exist because two things bumped into each other. You are one of those things. And you came from somewhere. God made you. And he made you for purpose. And you recognize, even if you haven't figured out that purpose here, is that you belong here. You belong on earth. And when you stop belonging on earth, you're going to die and go away. But as long as you are occupying space and time here, you're here for reason or purpose. And you settle that in your mind. And you begin to pursue that purpose so that when you have to come in front of a stranger or a group of strangers, you're not worried about that anymore because you know you have reasons to exist. And this may sound so basic that you wonder why you're listening to it. That is, if you've already figured yours out. But you'd be amazed at how many folks have not figured that out. You'd be amazed at how many people go to bed at night in frustration, in deep wonder about whether they belong here or not. You might well be surprised at how many people are standing on the edge of life, wondering whether or not they should jump off. That's one of the terms I use often. You will hear it. Because I myself have been really surprised at how many people live frustrated lives because they're not clear that they have a mandate to fulfill on earth. And it's not about making themselves wonderful and all beautiful and attractive and so forth. It's making themselves wonderful and beautiful and attractive and valuable so that they can serve others. Because the human race is an interdependent species. The eagle is not so much. The eagle is a loner. But when we behave only like eagles, then we are subverting the purpose for our existence. You are supposed to take care of you so that you can be of service to others. And even in the case of the eagle is of service to its young, its little children. If it sounds like I'm waxing philosophical here, so be it. But if I'm talking with you and you still have holes in your personality, soft spots in your belly about the powerful human being you represent, that you are, the being. Whether you have a PhD or a master's or a high school diploma, or you're struggling to get the last one, you have influence in the world, and that influence needs to be developed, and you need to come to rest and peace with that so that you just stop trembling and worrying about how people see you. Well, yeah, how people see you is important, but just develop it and stop worrying about it. I'm taking folks through a pathway of saying you need to work on you, work on your confidence, work on your self-esteem, but only for one purpose. So that you stop working on it and stop thinking about it so that it's not necessary anymore. Because what will come out of this is that you are here to serve others. And others are depending on you. They need you. People don't just listen to your words. They feel your presence. They feel assurance. They feel fear. They feel authenticity. They feel disingenuity when you're disingenuous. And if you're a really good deceiver, they might not be able to tell right away, but it comes out some way or the other. And if you can master your emotions so that people, or let me say me, because I don't even want to project that to you, if I can master my emotions so that others don't perceive that I'm a deceiver and they can't tell, my actions will show. Because after all, what's the purpose of deceit except to get things done that would not otherwise be done if honest? So people eventually can tell. They don't just go by your words. And I want to say this again, because in presenting, we use a lot of words. I'm using words now because it's the greatest tool we have. But that tool represents reality. And when your words speak of the reality of your life, they need to be powerful. What have you done lately to work on you? What? You get up every morning, you go to work, you tend to your business Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Oh, oops, Saturday as well. Here I am Sunday doing a little business. And you can run like that for weeks and months and years and be surprised when your next birthday comes up and not spend any time working on you. When last did you join a group to discover your potential? And when last did you read a book about your dreams and aspirations and how they come to pass? When last did you spend some money to hire a coach to teach you about your personality and frame your thoughts in such a way where you can manage them and fulfill them? When last did you invest some of that money you're earning on you, not on the clothing or the shoes or something, but on you, developing the grounding to make you know that you're a valuable human being, a POV, a person of value, as somebody says. Gosh, we could spend so much more time on it. I won't. Only to summarize and say to you that if you really want to be a great presenter, you need to develop your presence. And one of the central areas that deserve focus, if even reduced to 3, is the emotional grounding, the inner thoughts and the inner representations of reality and how your mind works. Not so you can become egotistical and think that you're wonderful, but so that you're grounded and ready to fill yourself up with value to serve others. So that when you speak, it is your being that is coming out, not just the sort of expedient communication for the moment. I hope you get that. I really hope you get that. Because so much of public speaking focuses on the technical competencies. But yet when we get nervous and we get scared and when we're up there and we're flustered and we cannot maintain our mind, we can't control our minds, it is this thing that needs to come to our rescue. The fact that it's okay, I'm going to be fine. Okay, things have just gone the way I would not have wanted them to go. We don't even say wrong anymore. Things have not gone the way that I have wanted them to go, but it's going to be perfectly fine. We're going to make this happen. We're going to make this work. And you give your mind the permission to call on the subconscious to figure out creative solutions to what just happened. The electricity just went off. Okay, my slides are not showing. Some disruptor stood in the audience and is throwing ideas against me to discredit me. And I am perfectly calm. Why? Because I'm assured, I'm emotionally grounded, and my reputation is not on the line to make me afraid. I'm going to be just fine, thank you. And when you're in that space of emotional grounding, resources come to you from places, universe, circumstances, memories, things that just materialize. I know, I've been there, just to get to a place where you trust the moment. You trust. I trust in God. I trust in life and experience, and things work out fine when you're emotionally grounded. Am I totally emotionally grounded? No, I'm still working on it. But man, I'm much better than I used to be. And I continue to work on it, and I trust you do too. And so the third of the 3, the last one, yeah? The last one is the physical. Remember, the inside now, the internal grounding, the external is the other one. Because, you can think right, but kind of lose concentration, and the external can actually betray you because your normal, let me say me, my normal way of moving my body and being physically in a space needs to change when I'm in a professional setting. And I need to be aware of protocol and politics and processes and so forth for the people with whom I am communicating, so that I do not slur back into my own what's called the comfort zone. When you tell you about physical appearance as the third of 3 important considerations for presence, I lead with my own story. If you let me be in my comfort zone, if you see me in my natural habitat, Here's what it looks like when I'm really comfortable. I don't have any shoes on. I hate socks. You'd have to try to strangle me to put a tie on me. I don't like long sleeve shirts unless I have to wear them in bad weather, which means really cold. And I like to put up my feet. When I'm eating, I am comfortable when my feet are up. My wife is working on me to be decent around the table, and I try. And when I go to a restaurant or a public function, I do everything I can to conform to protocol and process. I am comfortable when I am just relaxed in a pair of shorts with my bare feet put up somewhere. I was in Mexico City in the Intercontinental Hotel, I think in the Distrito Federal, and I had Colgate-Palmolive, a multifunctional team with Colgate-Palmolive, and I think it was like 8 or 9 people. We were working on the strategies to sell more toothpaste and mouthwash in Comercial Mexicana and other retail stores. And we were there for 2 days. We were just going through the data, and we're organizing data, and we're coming up with hypotheses, and we're developing strategies, and we're creating the presentations and talking about how we're going to train the organization when we get it developed. And after being there for several hours, I sort of forgot that I was not in my regular habitat. And under the table, big round table, I kicked my shoes off. And for hours, I didn't have my shoes on. I didn't have any socks on. And at a certain point, I don't know, Juan must have pulled back from the table and he said, "Alvin, ¿dónde están los zapatos?" I went, "Oh." He said, "Alvin, where are your shoes?" Furthermore, I had no socks on. And I kind of blushed for a little bit and put my shoes back on until he didn't notice again. But here's the point. Our training in public speaking is not to make you a sort of artificial professional animal. Have your life, be comfortable, do what you do in your normal space. But when you're on the platform, when you are on stage, which means the lens of the camera is looking at you, or the 200 people, that's 400 eyes peering at you. At that point, you put yourself in, and you'll hear this from me over and over. Certain terms are so important, you'll hear them almost every time you hear me. You put yourself into an altered state of consciousness that steps up your game to match the expectations and the betterment of the audience. So I, who am an island boy, whose best moments were on the beach, sitting down and sipping a jelly coconut and watching the ocean lap at my feet, must take my life serious, must get to the state of gravitas, where my inner thoughts manifest on the outsides of me and they come out professionally so that they do not become a stumbling block for folks who don't understand why I am the way I am in my comfort zone. Are you getting this clearly? And so the physical manifestations then say that I need to hold my body a certain way, not cocky again. It's just knowing the effect that it has. And I want to share with you some research now that says this is not just my easygoing island boy philosophy that I'm trying to impart to you, or I'm trying to counter to help you be professional. There is a principle called the Mehrabian formula. If you want to look it up, Mehrabian formula. And it states some very dramatic numbers. It says that 55% of your communication is based on body language. Wait a minute, that leaves less than 50. We work so hard on words. And as if that were not bad enough, less than half of your effectiveness in communication is words. 55% is the physical stature and how it moves. If that were not bad enough, 38% of it is tone and voice cadence and modulation and volume and pace and dynamism. Wait a minute now, if you're a numbers kind of person and you have a 55 and 38, you come up with 93%. What's left? Words. And according to the Mehrabian principle, 7% of your communication is dependent on words. Or said another way, if you took the weighting of your communication, words would be weighted at 7 out of 100, and 38 would be tonality and voice modulation and so forth, and 55% on body language. Now, if it's research, which means that it adheres rigorously to the empirical process, then I have to believe it. But intuitively, it's even hard for me to believe. And so when I get that in my head, it makes me realize then that if I want it to be taken seriously, if I want my presence to matter, then I need to make sure that I hold my body upright and not slouch, particularly in a professional audience. Now, frankly, I often use this example because I want to give context. Nothing I say is absolute. If you listen to me for a whole year, I dare say nothing is absolute, but even that is not absolute, because there may be some things about God that are absolute. But God himself is very flexible and interactive and amorphous in his application of truth to mankind. So nothing, follow me now, because I've got a little bit of a crazy brain here. Nothing that I say is absolute, and even that's not absolute. Everything is situational and based on context, okay? So when I say body upright and don't slouch, it is in context. Because one of my clients is a central bank, and they're PhD economists and, people who run the monetary policy of a nation, and they know it and they take it seriously, and I have to step up to their energy, not because I like it or dislike it, but because if I don't, they don't take me seriously. You get it? But I've had a client that was a shipping company, and their office was on the edge of the ocean, and their employees were pretty much sailors and ship, what do you call them? They're folks on the wharf workers. They load boats with massive amounts of goods to be transported from one continent to the other. And as wharf hands and sailors, their culture is different. So if I were applying protocol and wanted to make sure that my physical appearance did not become noise and a stumbling block to my communication, I couldn't go there and hold my body up straight and pretend that I was talking to a central bank. Do you get my meaning? So while I may drive it home with a lot of verve and gusto, which is sometimes seen as my normal style, you need to take it with a grain of salt of application and context. Because sometimes the very thing about which I am very energized, the very opposite is true in certain contexts. I know that. And so I generally represent that normal situation, recognizing that there are exceptions to every rule. And so let's talk about the professional corporate environment there, then, that does not have a culture where people are relaxed. Look, if I speak in perfect English every time, they think I'm kind of cocky and a schoolboy. So I have to release my language. I don't curse. They do curse a lot. I don't curse when I'm in front of them, but I chill out. I speak fast. I stop myself in mid-sentence. I put my foot up on a chair. They stop and they go out and they smoke and they come back and so forth. But I wanted to get the message through to them. And subsequently, I need to fit in their appearance, their expectations of how I would appear if I can be believed. I am more believable when I am like the people at the wharf than if I were acting to impress the folks at the central bank. So then, I'm generalizing now about the typical Fortune 500 company or big corporation. It says you hold your body upright, your shoulders are erect but relaxed. You're not a square box. And you walk with purpose and you smile. Yeah. Now, if I were dealing with a number of small business entrepreneurs who sell in the open marketplace, they don't always have to smile. They don't have to be conforming to this standard. Same idea as with the wharf hands. I dress to fit the occasion. Now, this one is properly stated because it is to fit the occasion. And then when I'm on camera especially now, I make sure that my lighting and my audio are fine. In this thing I talked about earlier with regard to the 30-day challenge, a really exciting thing that's going on, we teach you more about how to get your audio right and how to get the lighting right, so that not that they do things for you, but that they stop your video from being rejected, from people just going and flicking past you. So we get into a lot more detail. I'm touching on the surface here because time doesn't allow us to go into any more details. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We've now talked about it. We've talked about physical presence, and it fits because the context of this one the title of this topic we pursued at the start of this was, how do you get your presence to be taken seriously when you appear in front of people, when you walk into a room, when you stand on a stage, when the camera is penetrating with its gaze, looking into your face, through you, and into your soul? It was scary at the start. And the three things, among others, with which you can work to ensure that this presence is acceptable and works for you instead of against you, are gravitas, this sense of seriousness and maturity that's not chronological age, because some older people don't have gravitas and some young have it. Both must work on it. Gravitas, what it takes to be taken seriously, what is required to be taken seriously. The inner work on your psychology, on your thoughts, on your attitudes, on your self-concept, and your reason to be, and how all of that is manifested on your physical presence, your body language. Are you flipping around and are you doing things that make your body seem like it's not committed, and holding your head down, and in an audience where everybody is seeking to be professional? When you can work on all of that to the point where you don't work on it anymore because it becomes natural, then you can be a powerful presenter because you will rise to the occasion. You take me, I remember one night I had a presentation to give. It was on the schedule. I forgot. And I fell asleep. And my business partner called me and said, "Are we doing this tonight?" And I was late. And within a matter of 2 minutes, running to the bathroom as fast as possible, I was on camera. Well, maybe it'd been 3 minutes. I was on camera. And I dare say you couldn't tell, other than the fact that it was a couple of minutes late, because I was in the mode right away. I was in the mode right away to be lying around and so forth, and being comfortable the way I like to stretch out on my couch is natural to me. But having worked on it for so long, I know how to shift and be in mode right away. I'm behind the curtain and the curtain opens. I know what I need to do. You have to practice it and practice it so you know what you need to do, so that you don't have to think about it anymore. If you want to be great, you're going to need people in your life. If you're going to get people in your life who are helpful toward your greatness, you need to communicate with them. If you're not going to line them up and communicate with them one-on-one, you need to be good at speaking one-to-many. One-to-many is public speaking through camera or live audience. If you want to be effective public speaking, it's not just about your words. Your words are only 7% according to one source. You must have the presence, the body language, the inner thoughts, the sense of seriousness, and so forth. So work on your gravitas, work on your thoughts, and work on your physical presence, and you will be on your way to being a source of powerful influence, because so many people are dependent on you. That is what we need to be working on. Now, I've kept mentioning this 30-day challenge. Oh my goodness, if you have any interest at all in digging deeper in any of these areas and others necessary for you to be a powerful source on camera or force on camera, if you want to be a YouTuber or a vlogger or a presenter or a webinar host or a business manager dealing with a remote team or anything that requires you to be on camera and effective, or you have to stand in front of a live audience, you really want to take this 30-day challenge, whether from me or somewhere else you might find it. But if you want to do it from me, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on this, the heart, and I'm going to work on the gut, and I'm going to work on the belly. We are going to get that done in 30 days, and it is exhilarating. If you have any interest at all in this, just send me a direct message, a DM, tell me interested, and we'll follow up with you and tell you how that works. So that's what I came to share with you today. I trust that you're not satisfied with yesterday. And while it's wonderful to live in the moment now, I trust that living in the moment has a purpose. And I trust that that purpose is to have you lean forward into the future, so that which others cannot see, you already see, because you're delivering excellence now, leveraging the past, but you're working on the present so that your future can be better than the combination of both. And if you want to earn more of everything that you ever desired in life, you must perform better, achieve more. If you want to achieve more, you must constantly work on becoming more. And every single week, at this time, on the same day, we're going to give you a little touch of this. Come back next week. If you know anybody might benefit from this, invite that person, send the link to that person. And I'm going to keep teasing and annoying and disrupting your thinking and challenging you to step up, to live up to the purpose for which God made you. Because your life is purpose. And if it's not yet, it must be. And I will help you as much as I can, but it's up to you. Have a wonderful afternoon, wonderful day, wonderful evening. And if you have anything further to share, the chat's open, and I might respond afterward, or as the case may be, let it be. But have a fabulous day. Great to share with you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Remember to DM me if you have an interest in this 30-day challenge.